Welcome to episode 147 of the Beefy Boys Breakdown. We're going over Noche UFC, uh, Grasso Shevchenko 2. And man, I mean, this was a rematch that I was like highly anticipating because the first fight really was close, man. Like, it's weird how we talk about fights that end in a finish as if they're not close. Those two things can coexist. Close fights can end in a finish.
I
And
I
yeah.
also just want to touch on the initial outrage. It seems like there is from fans in the mixed martial arts community of. It seems like on both sides, people saying that like, oh, no way that this fighter didn't win, no way that this fighter didn't win, and they seem outraged by the fact that like their person didn't win the fight, even though they thought they should have. I thought this fight was so close that I don't know how you can be outraged. Like, bro, the whole fight was
There's
close.
only one scenario in which I could become outraged, and that's the scenario we got. I
Right.
was fine with either woman winning. Like, and I rarely say that. Like, I usually hate when people have
No,
there's no
that
robberies in a close
see,
fight
but
take. This
but
was an actual one.
that's what I'm saying is for all the people that are acting like there was a robbery for one girl. No, not one girl got robbed. They actually both get robbed here. That's like my point
Yeah,
is that for them to be like picking sides is like no one's wrong except for the judge.
yeah, the people that got screwed here were the fans, both women and both contenders. Like literally, like the
I was
entire
just about to
division.
say the UFC female flyweights that are not ranked one or champion all got fucked by this result.
Yeah, 1,000%. They all got their like the entire division just got pushed back 9 months at least.
I have
Um,
capital Fugays in so like all caps in my fucking notes at the decision
well, like,
because it's just like it just holds up everything. And I mean, let's
it's
go round by
dog
round,
shit.
not to belabor the point.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, like, usually we kind of talk over the story points and talking points and then dive in round by round. But literally, the judging round by round is the main story point. So it's kind of kill two birds with one stone. You're right. Let's
Right,
hop right into it.
right,
Yeah, like
right.
it's all this fight all comes down to how you score. Like, literally, that's the only talking point. That's the only narrative. That's really all that matters is how it actually was scored and then how we all saw it as fans. So, yeah, man, a Grasso coming in at plus 140 dog. I didn't really understand that money line, quite frankly. I thought, I mean, granted, 140 is pretty close. I thought it should have been even closer, maybe 120, 115. I guess I understand Shevchenko being favored, but not really. She's 35 years old, which is, I'll be real, I didn't realize she had turned 35.
That's a big number
Um,
for title defenses too. People at home statistically, like you don't
yeah,
usually reclaim a belt 35 or older. So to be on
and
that
I, and,
line, like that's a big number.
and I believe that statistic gets even worse on the female side, and it's bad enough as
It's
just broad
well,
stroke.
there's only one girl
Um,
to have ever reclaimed it, and you know who that is. It's Nunez when she beat Pena. So
yeah,
no
you're
woman's
right.
ever reclaimed a belt after 35, aside from Amanda Nunez once. So
So like I didn't really understand the money line. Granted, it's a pretty close money line, so I don't want to belabor the point. But yeah, I mean, Grasso won the first one, and I rewatched that first fight the other night, and it was a hard fight to like take anything from for this reason. Grasso was so far ahead in the stand up, and Shevchenko was so far ahead in the grappling and
right,
wrestling. So
right.
it was like,
The only thing I would
yeah,
say that was like a big takeaway for me in the first fight going in was the simple thing of what you just said, but how that actually plays out into a 25-minute fight. Meaning like Valentina then you would say is the one to dictate position, right? Because if she's able
yeah,
to get the takedown, she gets to decide when it's not standing. Whereas Grasso wants it to be standing because she was winning on the feet in the first fight. I fully agree with both your sentiments there. So that I think is where the minus 170 comes in, is they're thinking like, oh, Valentina's going to go out, try to Muay Thai her. If it doesn't work again, she's going to realize like I just need to fight her on the ground the whole time and not try to stand with her. Now, oddly enough, I think there's some pride to be considered for Valentina Shevchenko, 35 years old, first time she's ever lost in the UFC to a woman not named Amanda Nunes. I think she was going to come out and try to strike in that first 5 minutes, regardless. Now,
and I'll say Shevchenko's striking looked much better in this fight than it did the
yes,
first
her
fight.
right,
And
her
Grasso's wrestling defense looked much better than the first. Like both improved on what we needed to improve on. Like I think we got the best version of each lady in this fight. Like competitive wise, like anticlimactic result, but very competitive and entertaining fight. Like while it was happening.
Did you notice how much faster Shevchenko's right hand looked in this fight versus the first fight? I mean, it might
Yeah,
have
she was
just
fighting southpaw more. Which the right hand was the jab because she was fighting southpaw.
It's a good point. Probably her taking power off of that hand and giving it more speed was a good move for her. Now, as far as like how the actual round plays out, I thought on the feet once again super close. Grasso slight edge, but I think Shevchenko realized it and could feel that edge, and that's why she went for that takedown. Gets a takedown, doesn't really do anything with it. But I just thought with it being that even, I gave it to Shevchenko, but it was close.
No, I agree. It was very close on the feet, and it was kind of a deal where Shevchenko, I believe, was getting the numbers off, but Grasso was hitting harder and cleaner. So kind of a wash on the feet. And Shevchenko does get the takedown, has some snoozy clinch control. Shevchenko's ground and pound, though, is just non-existent and kind of snoozy.
Grasso's tricky, man. I mean, first fight and this fight, she does not stay on her back. Like, she will turn and give up her back and just stand right up. I mean, she's so good at getting up. I was very impressed by her.
She is. Yeah, and she stuffed a couple of the takedowns, not in the first round, but as the fight went on, she would stuff not everyone, and it wasn't perfect, but definitely way better than the first fight, for sure. So we both gave round one to Shevchenko. I think most people did. It was a close round, but I think Shevchenko won it, not in like a beat down, pull away fashion, but I think she did enough to win the round. I think we both see that. Now round two. Really, things start to heat up, man. Grasso gets the knockdown with that straight right, bro. It looked like a goddamn video game or comic book, like
just rolled her
flying across the ring and like rolled backwards. Like it literally, like my homie's playing this Spider-Man game right now on the TV in the room. Like it literally looked like something off of like a video game. Like she punched her. Shevchenko did damn near like a backflip across the goddamn octagon. It was crazy. Like it looked like almost like unrealistic. Like
I think you could tell that Shevchenko did not hold a power advantage, and that moment like cemented that.
No, for sure. I never really did. And then maybe a speed advantage with the jab, but definitely not a speed advantage with the power hand or really anything like that.
I thought striking, she was struggling. She was struggling to find a way to get into Grasso and not eat counters, and essentially she started just grappling because of it every time she get in too close.
Especially early. I feel like in the fourth and fifth rounds, Shevchenko's striking, where she started to make a couple reads, figure a couple things out. But I agree, broad stroke with your statement. Now also, man, what can't be underestimated in round two, that up kick Grasso landed was clean. And I feel like I like up kicks more than a lot of people. Like, I never hear really anybody talk about up kicks landing like in a breakdown, but like, it is a super powerful, super damaging move that when lands clean, it needs to be scored as a head kick, bro. Like, if it lands clean.
If you think about it,
it literally is a head kick.
It's more so your heel, too. Like, the harder part of your heel, the bottom of your heel, the part that gets conditioned to walking on hard shit all day, every day.
And just from, like, I don't even know, like a body metric, like a physiological kinesiology standpoint, like you can typically leg press more than you can squat, right? Like,
well, you get to involve
body
your
in that position.
Yeah, your hips get compressed like with it's not your back anymore; it's just your actual hip flexion.
Yeah, so like it's essentially one of the most powerful, devastating, like explosive moves that like a human body can do, and if it lands on your fucking mouth, then I'm gonna score that shit. Just like I'd score a goddamn, left high kick.
Well, imagine an uppercut with your foot. That's essentially what you're being able to throw there. You know what I mean? Like,
because you're getting the whiplash too. Like,
right.
It's gnarly, bro. And like, I just feel like people don't value it because typically, the one fighter's on its back. It kind of is a desperation move.
It's a desperation. Yeah. That's exactly why it's looked at that way. But who gives a shit, desperation or not? Like, that's like a hook kick. Like, hook kicks can be desperate. Spinning elbows can be desperate. When they land flush, they're fucking murderous.
Yeah, 1,000%. Like Derek Lewis versus Volkov, that was desperate, but we all thought it was dope. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, put some respect on the up kick when they land clean, I guess is my campaign over here. But, yeah, and then Shevchenko got a takedown in that round, too, but it was straight snooze control with no damage. You got to give 2 to Grasso, right?
100%. Had it 19-19. I mean, Grasso had much more of the more explosive moments. I think Shevchenko had more control in the round, which means absolutely nothing compared to the damage, right? So it was one of those where, like, if Shevchenko avoids the big punch and the big up kick, it's a really close round. But when you put those in, it's like all Grasso, not even a question.
And just because this will become very relevant, if there was a 10-8 round, which I do not have any rounds 10-8, but if gun to my head, I have to pick one round to give it 10-8 to, it's going to be this round,
Yeah,
not 5.
this is the clearest round of the fight, and it's a very clear 10-9.
It's a very clear 10, but I'm saying, even if you want to go full like boxing lawyer ball, there was a knockdown. Like I'm saying, gun to my head, I have to pick a 10-8. I'm picking this one over 5 because there was a knockdown.
No, that's what I'm saying though. Is that yeah, I would agree with you to that point, but I still think this is a 10-9, and no one's even saying like for this judge to have scored this 10-9 and then to have given a 10-8 later is absurd because you're working against your own precedents at that point. Oh, I just spilled on my ash.
1,000% agree with you. RIP to the Ash. But yeah, we'll keep it pushing to round 3. Round 3, it was I leaned Shevchenko, another takedown, so that's like 1 per round. There was some control with no damage. The only difference in this round where I had to respect Valentina's ground game a little bit more is that guillotine was pretty goddamn deep, and then she got in the mount.
Deep.
Like it was Ortega Volk-esque.
It was.
Like the mounted ghillie.
It was same position too. Like to survive in the mounted ghillie is insane. Now it does beg the question that I've seen really good, like Mikey Musumeci, I've seen him do it. He gets that and then lets the head pop out, but slips at the same time and catches the arm triangle as he hops out. And it's easier to finish sub, I guess. I have no idea. Never got that deep and had someone survive.
Well, and then, I think it's in moments like that where, Valentina is a striker by trade. Now, she's rounded out her game phenomenally, and she's won a lot of fights on the ground, so people forget. But, she fought Muay Thai, her whole life like that. She's a striker by trade, and, she rounded out about as well as you can possibly round out. But, yeah, to compare it to, a Mikey Musumeci, that's where that gap that can't be made up.
We've also seen one-arm guillotines, too. You don't necessarily have to have it locked, pulled, if you have enough squeeze in position. She does have gravity leverage there. But, yeah, like you're saying, just not quite the nuance to know how to get there.
Yeah, the one-arm ghillie, too, is I feel like brute strength kind of factors in a little more.
Super. But
women's flyweight, too.
But if you're if you're mounted, you can actually kind of crush their head into your arm, too. You can use your chest in the back of their head.
Yeah, but, good round for Valentina. I don't think anybody's arguing that round for Grasso. Now, round 4 is where things get tricky. And I don't know, did you check out the verdict score on round 4? He's burying the lead.
I did not. I had Shevchenko up 2-1, and I have the 4th as the closest round in the fight. And I said I could see it either way. I gave it Shevchenko.
Agree with every word that just came out of your mouth. Dude, bro, verdict literally had the exact same number.
9-5?
I forget how that math works out. But, and I'm using my phone for the podcast so I can look it up. But it's the first round I believe I've ever seen on verdict where it was literally a tie.
Yeah, it should be 9.5 each way then, because usually it's 10.0, 9.0. So if they met right in the middle, 9.5, 9.5.
It was literally I split down the middle. If that doesn't sum it up, then I don't know what does. I do think it's interesting though that we both need Shevchenko. Let's talk about why.
Right. Okay, perfect, because I think there's some precedents set in the fight beforehand that lead to why it's Shevchenko.
Take it away.
Personally, it's more so I think that neither girl really took a huge damage lead in round 4, right? I think the damage is...
I think Shevchenko cutting Grasso with that elbow factored in big on my scorecard.
Okay.
That wasn't some fluky or clash of heads. That was a clinch elbow that was stiff as fuck and landed accurate as fuck. And it was probably the single most damaging strike of the whole fight. You could debate that or the knockdown.
Well, okay, but then also you got to think in round 5 she opens up another cut on Grasso's face closer to the eye, but I didn't think much about it because I almost gave that to round 4. All the face damage I considered round 4, oddly enough. But yeah, you're right. But I also kind of pushed back on it being a round 4, that's almost an accumulation cut. 20 minutes into a fight to cut someone for the first time.
I was watching live. It was that one elbow. I literally, you could see it open up, on impact. I feel you, in 4th round, that eye's been touched. So I don't, wholeheartedly disagree with your point. But, you saw it happen. The elbow landed, cut open, Like, it was pretty, like, got a smoking gun there.
Yeah, I guess it just wasn't like a devastating shot where like it made Grasso like shell up. You know what I mean? It wasn't one of those like
No, it didn't wobble her. No,
right.
I feel it.
So I'm saying damage like optically
Superficial
is
damage.
yes. There you go. That's what I mean to say. Like the damage as far as like Grasso punching her back. Grasso could have cut her if she landed the right strike because I think they hit each other the same. Shevchenko just landed the
elbow.
No, I'm saying Shevchenko landed the better strikes, which is why I gave her the round. Because I thought the damage was close. I just thought she landed the better strikes.
Well, let's talk about these knees, though, because if you're going to give Grasso round 4, you give it to her for the clinch knees. The clinch knees, a little controversial, but not really. The rules recently, I guess, been modified to where you have to have weight bearing on the hand. And, you know, and Valentina didn't pull an Aljamain Sterling. I don't know, because Shevchenko had fingers, like, dragging the ground.
That was my problem, was she was trying to bear weight, and Grasso was holding her weight and kneeing her. Now, as far as the rule reads, that's fully legal. But I'm just saying, it didn't feel like the cleanest knees.
I'll put it this way. I'm glad that they're legal, because Shevchenko was trying to lawyer ball Aljo out there. And I'm glad that she wasn't rewarded for that. And I'm glad Grasso was a savage and didn't second guess herself and was like, I'm in a fucking title fight, a fist fight against a world-class savage. Like, I'm going to get my damage off here and worry about it. Like, pretty much like shoot first, ask questions later, basically. And I mean, it all worked out for her. I had a hard, like I said, man, that's why, like, I really value that cut from Shevchenko.
See, but
that elbow, because
that is what I was saying though too. Is like 5 knees, 1 elbow. You know, like what is more damage versus what's optically appearing to be more damage.
Yeah, I'll say Shevchenko, you know, recovered well from those knees, which is shocking, right? Like
they honestly didn't hurt her that bad. Like she stood up and looked at the ref, like, "Do I have? You gonna let me eat those?" Like. She looked at him like, I can eat those, but do I have to? I was surprised with that.
She wasn't wobbled. She wasn't dropped. She wasn't cut, you know.
Not getting cut was amazing because she was getting hit on her forehead with them.
Those knees were hard, too. No, it was entertaining. It was savage. Like, it's so crazy because Grasso, she's so sweet, so soft-spoken, so respectful.
Savage in the fucking octagon, dude.
Yeah.
Like, she looks like she has the sweetest face, like, would bake you an empanada and a pie and then fucking beat your ass.
She'll make you one of those Kevin Holland-sized tacos, you know what I'm saying? That was ridiculous. That was the only moment in the whole thing that, like, felt like pandering. Or, like, like Kevin Holland. Like, that was hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting that we both saw round 4 the same way. But like verdict had it literally tied. If you gave round 4 to Grasso, you're not a crazy person at all, for sure. But yeah, we both saw it the same way. So we have identical scorecards. We have it tied up going into 5, right?
No, we have it 39-37 Shevchenko.
Oh, no, you're 1,000% right. Yeah, so we had Grasso needing a finish in 5.
She fought like she did need one too.
Yeah, I agree. Also, in round 4, one thing I didn't touch on, don't want to spend too much time on it, that's whenever Shevchenko's southpaw jab really started to kind of get off. I think that helped kind of accumulate some points as well.
Shevchenko also fucked herself, and I thought was winning the first 2 minutes of round 5, and then gave her back and almost got fucking choked. Same as the way she lost the first fight.
It was deja vu. It really was.
Like, when is she going to learn to not let Alexa Grasso... Because she can't grapple when Grasso's on her like that. She is in the worst position.
And Valentina's known for having, like, a really good fight IQ, but she was getting double legs, single legs. Like, she was getting traditional and judo throws. She was getting whatever takedown she wanted all night. So for her to go to the most vulnerable, risky, like low reward headlock throw that always gets reversed, even in low level prelim fights.
Bro, I see
the biggest moment of the fight.
I see first year wrestlers reverse that move because it's as simple as your coach looking at you the first time it happens, and they go, next time it happens, squeeze them and roll. Just start to roll with it. And if you squeeze them and hold them, like, yeah, you're just gonna roll. It's like a somersault.
I used to do it in football all the time. Like, whenever a lineman would, like, hold me and throw, I would always end up on top. You just keep the momentum going, and, like, you don't even need to be trained. It's just kind of like instinct. It feels like the right thing to do. Like, the momentum's on your side there. Like, it's easy to reverse for even untrained people, amateur fighters, contenders, prelim fighters. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Valentina is known as being the highest of high levels, fights in essentially nothing but 5-round title fights in main events and co-main events. And for her to make that mistake there was very just sus. I don't know, like a better like word for it. It was just really piss poor fight. I mean, she essentially egate herself, right?
It felt. She Shevchenko'd herself because it was the way she lost her belt to begin with. Like it feels like that was the one thing she should have taken away from the first fight was like, don't try the upper body throws because they're too risky to give my back away like that if they don't work.
Well, especially whenever the traditional wrestling takedowns had worked.
Every time.
Like 9 rounds of it working every time, right? Like even going back to the last fight. Like she could get a double or single leg or like even like a trip along the cage whenever she wants. And she just goes for this boneheaded headlock throw that gets reversed. And I have the word stole round in my notes, man. I have Grasso stole the round with the late back take where she took the back off of the throw that we're talking about. And then I thought it was dope that she really did go for it. She did fight like she needed a finish. Because there was ground and pound and submission attempts. So like all like just kind of grasping at straws, like just throwing shit at the wall, seeing what sticks. And a lot of it was sticking. Those RNC attempts were close. The ground and pound was landing. I mean, she stole the round, but not in like a fluky way, right? Like it was stolen off skill.
And that's why I let in with Shevchenko was ahead the first 2 minutes. Because Grasso was having to battle back to win the round up to the end when she got the sub attempt locked in. Now, at that point, I think that's when she started to win the round. But it's not like she was dominant for the duration of the round. So how where's the damage?
That much damage.
Neither girl really did damage. And if you wanted to go by damage, optical, Shevchenko opened a second cut in that round off the nose. So, I'm just saying, I score it to Grasso. But there's no question of a 10-8. I never even thought about a 10-8.
No, like it's actually like a close 9.
Right.
Like, it's like a 9-7 on verdict. Like
9-7, 9-3. Like it was close.
Yes, 1,000%, bro. Like to get 10-8 out of that is wild. And I'll be real, don't know something crazy that it'll come full circle as this podcast goes on. I was handing 10-8s out like crazy last night or Saturday night. Like I scored a lot of 10-8s. A lot of them all night long.
I love a 10-8. I score plenty of 10-8s. His 10-8 was a 10-9.
Literally, bro. Like it didn't even like enter my head. Like because see, this was also a weird thing. So I didn't watch these fights live. So I got this spoiled that it was a draw. And I was sitting there so confused. It does suck. But I was like trying to reverse engineer the scorecards in my head.
Like how?
And I'm like I know the result. I just watched the fight, and I still like I was waiting for the scorecards to be read because I was like, wait, what? Like maybe I didn't get it. Like there's no way it was a draw. Like,
and then you hear 47-47 because one judge goes 48-47 Grasso. One judge goes 48-47 Shevchenko. Same scorecard as us. The judge has Grasso, gave her the 4th round. It's literally like the way we broke down the fight is exactly how anyone could see it. So for the last judge to have agreed with us and be up Shevchenko 3-1 going into 5, and to give Grasso a 10-8 in that round and not in round 2,
not in round 2.
Crazy.
That's when I said I was trying to reverse engineer it. I was like, what had to be a 10-8 in round 2 because like boxing logic, she got a knockdown. Like I said, I didn't. Neither of us gave round 2 a 10-8. If you're going to, it has to be 2, not 5. Like 2 was way more. I mean, what are we doing here? Yeah. Wild.
Now, I think when you think about it as a whole, Grasso and Shevchenko each won about 2.5 rounds of this fight. It was
agreed.
Quite a draw of a fight. Points-wise, I would score it Shevchenko, but I don't have the problem with the judge that scored at 48-47 Grasso. So I'm pretty much saying that this fight is as even as it gets. And the draw forcing him to run it back, they probably do need to run it back.
They do need to run it back, too. And, like, I wish that wasn't my answer. And everybody's all saying, like, oh, you can't do that. What about Blanchfield? Like,
oh, okay. Sorry about it.
Like, yeah, like tell that to Brandon Royval, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
any of the men's flyweights.
This was so inconclusive. The fight was so close. Like, it'd be one thing if it was like a DQ or some fluky injury or like, no, like, you're right. Each fighter won about 2.5 rounds. Like, it actually was low key a draw. It's just how we arrived at that conclusion was totally
It's the
fugazi.
fact
Like,
that you like abuse the scoring system to get a draw.
yeah, that's what it feels like, right? Like, it feels like he wanted this fight to end in a draw, and he found a way to like do that.
Right.
Like he worked backwards from the like result to score, as opposed to how the exact opposite.
Does
Is how
seem
that's
that way,
supposed
that
to.
he felt like Grasso shouldn't lose the fight for the way the fight ended. Almost like pride judged it and was like, well, I have to give 10-8 now in round 5 to make it
Yeah,
a draw.
like reverse engineered a scorecard. That's totally what it feels like. And it was Mike Bell, I believe, right?
Yeah, who's had some other sus cards.
No, Valentina both in the ring and in the post fight presser
That was a
said
ballsy
that
thing to
like
say in the ring, by the way.
so it was Noche UFC. It was like Mexican Independence Day. There was a heavily Mexican Latino crowd there. Grasso is the first female Mexican champion. Shit like this does happen in boxing all the time, so it's not like it's without precedent. If that's what happened, that really is even that much more bullshit. I actually like our pride reverse engineer logic more than I like the influence by the Mexican crowd logic. Personally, like I like the conclusion we arrived at more. Seems more plausible.
Well, it seems like if you're the Mexican crowd judge, you're given 4. And so then you don't even have to worry about this 10-8 stuff.
Yes, that's what I was worried about, right? Like exactly. If there was going to be a biased scorecard, you would just give Grasso 4. You wouldn't give 5 and 10-8. It was weird, very, very bizarre, very, very bizarre. I think you got to do. I think you run this back. I think you do Blanchfield Fioro fight night main event.
Yep. Santos and
sorry about it. And Rose, Santos and Rose,
or Santos and
or
Chikagian, who's just lingering.
yeah, right. Like figure it out. Sorry about it.
Or
Like,
Santos
yeah.
Fioro is more fun, but Santos obviously has the loss, so it has to be Blanchfield Fioro.
Yeah, yeah. I think it has to be Blanchfield Fioro, and yeah, I mean it reeks of Moreno Figgy, right? Like
Yeah.
because you got to like nobody wants it, but you got to. Nobody
The
wants it, but you got to.
draw is just so tough. So tough.
Sets the whole division back like 9 months to a year, dude. Yeah, it's anticlimactic as shit. Like Blanchfield's so young, she can't pull a Covington. Like she has to fight Fiora. Like sorry about it. Like
Speaking
in
of
a
which,
perfect world,
that's a perfect transition. Let's talk about the welterweights, because saw a stat recently. No one ranked in welterweight number 5 or higher has fought since the first week of May. How you feel about that?
I saw a hashtag that was authored by Derek Brunson that summed it up hilariously and perfectly. Welterweight, WAIT, hashtag welterweight. And like, yeah, they're not fighting. And it kind of makes sense in a way. I mean, Colby, right, wrong, or indifference, was like promised the title shot. So like, why would he do anything else? Especially knowing
he's in my
white privilege.
He's in my opinion the biggest hoe of them all currently, because he's been 16 months out.
I agree with you, but it also like makes sense. Like if you're promised, like I disagree with Dana White promising a title shot.
Yeah.
But if you're a guy who's been promised a title shot, then why would you like self-sabotage your career and you know what I mean, not cash that golden ticket? So like I actually agree with like both sentiments.
Well, I also hate Leon Edwards for just not being active.
Yes. I fault Leon. In a way, I kind of give Kamaru a pass because you know he is getting older. He was so active.
He was super active as the champ. I'm not asking him to have to repeat that as a challenger. That's not fair to ask of him.
And then Bilal's kind of dying on this hill where he's like kind of not in the wrong, but also like, God damn it, this sucks for the division. And then you got Shavkat literally begging for a fight. And everybody's like, well, I don't want to fight that guy. And then
and Burns. Burns is down to fight anyone. That's number 5.
He had a legitimate injury, right? And
but had an injury.
Working as hard as humanly possible to get back from that. And
and then Hamzat, who the fuck?
And is no longer in the division. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those weird things where as much as I hate it, I do understand how we got here, if that makes sense. Like, the only one without a valid excuse is Leon, and that's the champ, which obviously holds up the rest of the boys. So Leon. I put the blame squarely on the shoulders of Leon. Like Leon might be my least favorite champ, especially now that Aljo's not a champ.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, looking at all the champs, probably my least favorite. Which sucks because like he could they still have Jamal Hill listed as the champion at light
I
heavyweight.
know. I've been seeing
Hmm.
that. Like, I don't think he officially forfeited, like the narrative said, which is smart business on his part if he didn't, because he loses like literally like I mean hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, by relinquishing that belt and sponsorship money. Like, I think UFC champions get like a monthly stipend from sponsors and shit like that. Like he's fumbling the bag if he like actually did hand the bag the belt over. So like I hope he's allowed to hold on to it for like up to a year. It'd be one thing if Yuri was beating down the door like needing a fight, but he seems like he's still recovering too.
I think
Ankalaev is
I
about to
think they're
fight.
I think they're planning Yuri for the New Year's Eve card against Pereira.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I have no problem with Jamal holding on to that belt. I actually would have been a little like, make the bag. UFC fighters have like a short shelf life. Like, don't self sabotage your own like
I would
bank
also
account. You
say
know what I'm saying?
for Jamal Hill, he popped his Achilles in May, was it?
Sounds right. We can go with
June.
May. Yeah.
So he's back probably next July, next
Summer,
August. Yeah.
hopefully.
So for him, I mean, in my head, I'm thinking if they're not trying to put on the what would be the title fight until last day of this year, well, what's the problem with me holding it and that being the number one like the interim, and I just fight them when I'm back? Like that guy
Totally
can't
agree
wait
with that.
7 months to fight me.
Yeah. Especially when you got like Leon Edwards holding out 9 months for fuck all reason. Like give Jamal at least the same courtesy you're giving the healthy Leon Edwards. Yeah,
Right.
no, for sure. I agree with all that. Man, let's get to this co-main event. We got Kevin Holland. Interesting matchup, man. Very interesting matchup.
Back
Just from
into
a matchmaking
welterweight.
perspective, from the rankings, from the like I don't know. I
Uh,
love this period of time when we see these prospects that we've been high on. Like finally, it's put up or shut up. Like, are you what we thought you were? And so that's Jack Della Maddalena. From the first time we watched him fight, we're like, oh shit, we may got something here, boys. Like this welterweight, young lions in the welterweight division. Like he was on the top of that list. Him and Ian Gary, and now those guys are getting into the rankings, and it's a fun time. It was Shavkat. Now Shavkat's in the top 5, top 6. So like we're watching like all these guys that were prospects at the start of the Beefy Boy era, or like we're witnessing it. We it's fun. It's a fun time. We love. That's like one of my favorite parts of this podcast, of this sport, is watching guys go from prospect to contender, like that hero's journey of like
it
and either you are or you ain't.
it partially explains the welterweight that we're on, right? Because you have Shemaev, Shavkat, Brady, Gary, Holland, and JDM. So you have 6 guys that are all trying to be top 5 people and might have the necessary skill set. So
Yeah,
they're
like on any
actually
given night, right?
right,
On any
right.
given night,
So
yeah.
the actual top 5 that is there currently knows that, sees that, assesses that, and says to themselves, well, I'm not going to lose my spot fighting any of them. I'm going to lose it fighting to all these guys that are already here with me. So they
Yeah,
just
it became
logjam
lightweight.
themselves in. Yes, exactly right. And we're this close. Like we get through the end of this year, we probably start to see it break apart. Because Shavkat's gonna get booked. He's gonna break someone.
Same with lightweight. Like the loser of McGregor Chandler probably like retires or goes home or whatever, and then
Gaethje's been
you
talking about
know
retirement. He'll probably get one more
Gagey
crack at it
has.
since he beat Poirier.
Poirier will probably fight out his current contract, however many's on it. Dariush probably, all those guys. Changing of the
Dariush
guard
is
coming soon.
old. I mean, yeah, because you
Yeah,
got Gamrot, Fazeev, Sarukian, Grant Dawson, Jalen Turner, Frivola.
yeah,
Those guys are waiting and they're hungry.
yep, 1,000% agree, man. So yeah, this was a real interesting matchup. 13 Holland plus 115 dog. Jack Della Maddalena ranked 14 minus 135 favorite. I liked Holland. He's so much bigger, obviously more experienced, better jujitsu.
I liked him for that. I actually like the value on the Holland sub, second or third round here, just thinking
Yep.
that maybe he lands a big shot, jumps JDM's back, gets a choke.
Yeah. Now that being said, I was tweeting all week and shit like this was the people's main event. This was my main event. I guess I won't speak for the other
Ah,
people, but
man.
like I
After
I
watching it, do you still say that?
Oh no, that's what I was leading into.
Oh,
A
okay.
huge fucking boner killer.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah,
Good. All right.
sure.
Now, reason I ask you that like that and have such a positive reaction is because we're a Kevin Holland podcast. We're a JDM
Oh,
podcast. These are
yeah,
guys
that's what
we
I'm saying.
love. So for us to
Yeah.
be out here and tell you, not that good of a fight, a real snoozer.
Like I was looking forward to this for weeks. Like literally, I've been like
Yeah,
I
we've
couldn't
been
wait just because
talking
they.
about it.
Yeah, 1,000% agree. But yeah, kind of a dud. Kevin Holland seemed like he was, doing like a light spar, like
Yeah,
and
and
then
JDM seemed like he was like, all right, like cool, we're gonna spar, like I'm okay with this, and just kind of played the game.
see, I'll push back on that a little bit, bro. Like I guess this is maybe first hot take of the episode. Like JDM might not be that guy, bro. Like
I
like
don't think he
like
is.
Ian Gary whoops the fuck out of that version of Kevin Holland. You
Both
know what I'm
those
saying?
guys
Like
last night get beat up by Ian Gary,
like
beat
Sean
up,
Brady probably beats the fuck out of that version of Kevin Holland.
or
Uh,
JDM
like
too.
that's what I'm saying. Like I don't. I see. I think Kevin Holland played down to the level of his competition, kind of mailed one in. Whatever you can say, I'm making excuses. Maybe I am. It didn't look like we've seen the better versions of Kevin Holland than that, right? And we like Kevin Holland's kind of a streaky guy, right? Like some nights he'll lay some eggs. That kind of reeked of that. Um, and JDM, like I said, just might not be that dude. He's literally a boxer, bro. Like he literally is not a mixed martial artist. Granted, he lands a head kick in the first round, and that's about the only display of mixed martial arts that we saw. Like he's throwing left hands and right hands. He's essentially a boxer. So super limited, like skill set wise. Like he's elite boxer, but specialist for sure. And not even a kickboxing specialist, like quite literally a boxing specialist, which I don't think we've ever seen like reach top 5 levels in the UFC. And then at least not in welterweight. And then like to say that you can't be a like bad version of Kevin Holland or like Kevin Holland on a bad night. Like Kevin Holland is not a top 10 guy, and you didn't even get the best version of him. And you didn't really. I mean, he did beat him. I mean, spoiler alert, but like just didn't look that
I
great
mean,
doing it.
split
Edged out a
decision.
split decision. Yeah. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of dauber down on JDM just from like a.
I'm double down on both guys because neither guy actually like was really going for it, man. Like, and if JDM was, he doesn't have the actual skill set required to be a top 10 guy. And I know Kevin Holland has the skill set, and I know he wasn't doing what I'm used to seeing. So I already know Kevin Holland was fighting 5 out of 10 of his skill level. Because when he fought Wonder Boy, he looked way fucking better than this. And he had agreed to not even go for takedowns in that fight.
I agree with everything you just said, bro. It was a split decision, so we got to go round by round. Rounds 2 and 3 were super close and super subjective. I thought round 1 was pretty clearly JDM. That mainly due to the head kick. Also, all night I've said a lot of not so nice things about JDM. Loved his body work. His boxing to the body was phenomenal.
He was landing way harder than Kevin Holland was. I'm just going to say that already. Because the strike numbers are close in most of the rounds. But JDM was landing way harder.
Yep. It was not apples to apples comparison for sure. Like the punches JDM landed were infinitely more impactful than anything Kevin Holland landed really all night. Like Kevin Holland didn't really like sit down or anything all night.
He wouldn't. He refused to sit down and actually sit in the pocket. It was ridiculous. I've never seen him do that. It was like he was just trying to like spar. He was just trying to spar.
If you're a 6'3" guy fighting a 5'10" guy, and you're gonna have a teep kick and jab heavy game plan, then how the fuck is JDM like closing the distance whenever he wants? You know what I'm saying? So it's like it was worst of both worlds. Like, all right, if you're gonna have a like leg kick and teep kick and jab heavy game plan against the shorter fighter, like cool, I'm not gonna like fault you for that. Like use the advantages you were born with. But then whenever like that's not even working, like you can't keep JDM off of you and you're using a game plan that's designed to keep him off of you, like it was just a bad look for Kevin Holland. I just scored round 2. Like I said, I thought round 2 and 3, I like legitimately could go either way. Like this is another fight where there's no robbery here. Like if they would have gave it to Holland, cool.
Well,
if they gave it to
hold on now.
Cool.
Hold on now.
Right.
I just want to say this for you, because you are saying that. The judges agree on 2 and 3. They score them identical in those rounds. The round they split is 1, and the judge that gives 1 to Kevin Holland is Mike Bell.
I didn't know that. I didn't know. I thought JDM clearly won one. I
I
had a
thought so
hard time
too.
seeing the
I thought JDM won one. I thought Holland won two. I thought three was close, but JDM did just enough to win it. So I had it one and three to JDM, two to Holland. So I had JDM winning. But I just thought round one being the round of contingency was crazy. Because I thought one was the best round for JDM, the whole fight.
Yeah, and I was close to I actually gave two to JDM. Just the power, the damage, the impactful striking. Like, I acknowledge Kevin Holland landed a lot of body kicks, and the straight right hand was starting to land a little bit for Kevin Holland. I thought it was a real bad look whenever, like, Kevin Holland got his takedown, like, easily stuffed for JDM, like, just visually. It's not like JDM's some fantastic wrestler. We saw that Basil Hopez guy, you know what I'm saying, get him down. And so I don't know. Like, Kevin Holland, like, it wasn't even close. It wasn't like it was like it wasn't even close. Like, JDM, so, like, I thought that was a real bad look. And I just thought, like, JDM's body punches, his power, just the damage, if you will, it wasn't like visible damage, but if any damage was being done in that round, it was by JDM. It wasn't Holland's like teep kicks. So, like, I don't know. Like,
you had 1 and 2 to JDM.
I had 30-27.
Oh,
like,
okay.
With like coin flip rounds, like not a super bullish, like a kind of like I ended up at this conclusion, like based off a 3-round scoring system. Like I agree with probably your scorecard more than my own, but I just scoring round by round, I ended up with JDM winning every round. But like I said, 2 and 3, I like struggled to score. So,
well, it sucks because like they're not fun rounds to watch, which is what made them hard to score. And you'd think with guys at this level that they would not put on such a rusty, shitty looking fight. But it just was optically hard to watch, making it hard to score. Neither guy was really doing anything that actually mattered as far as what we've seen them be capable of doing to other opponents. And it wasn't like they were battling for it. They were just kind of fucking around.
When it's the age-old stoner debate of, like, quality versus quantity. You know, like, you got that one friend that wants to get the smaller bag of really good shit, and you got the other friend who wants to get a lot of lesser quality stuff. And, like, that's what we had here. I mean, Kevin Holland said won the striking numbers. I mean, the body kicks, the volume. Now, his accuracy was pretty piss poor, but he was throwing a lot out there and kept a good pace, staying busy, if you will. And then JDM, you know, significantly behind on the striking numbers, but like landing with more force. But it's also like a tough argument, just playing devil's advocate here for Kevin Holland. Like, okay, so you're scoring the rounds for JDM because of power and damage, but Kevin Holland could have gone to a fucking photo shoot after the fight. There wasn't any actual damage being done. The body work was nice, and you could argue he was landing stiffer than the pitter-pat bullshit coming from Holland. But it's like, all right, just say I scored it to JDM, obviously 30-27, but I used power and damage in my notes and my rhetoric, and Kevin Holland was never really damaged or hurt. There was a couple of little, like, no, I wouldn't say it wobbled, but kind of froze Holland like a couple of times. But, like, he recovered well, and like I said, wasn't knocked down, wasn't cut, wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Didn't bust the nose, didn't knock out a tooth. Like, so, like, yeah, to have a JDM winning on, like, a power and damage argument, and then Kevin Holland can go, you know, shoot a fucking commercial after the fight. Yeah, that's my argument for Holland, even just on a devil's advocate shit.
Yeah, the whole fight lacked damage, though, is the problem, right? Because even, as you're saying, Kevin Holland took the most damage and looked fine, meaning that JDM clearly didn't take much either. And that's what made it such, like, a, I guess, middle-of-the-road fight that no one cared about, because neither guy was doing enough damage.
No, for sure, bro. And, like, I think they swapped spots here. I don't think JDM, you know, jumps up in the rankings and really made a contender out of himself. And Kevin Holland, you know, he's right there. I don't think you can argue there's 15 guys in the world better than him. So, yeah, he'll stay in the rankings. And it's just, yeah, this fight was supposed to, like, accomplish a lot from, like, separating the men from the boys, the cream rises to the top, all that. And it kind of didn't do what it was designed to do. It was like, all right, this looked like the 13th and 14th best guy in the world, quite frankly. Like,
right. It set these guys up to stay outside top 10 in their next fights.
Yeah, I agree. Which, I mean, yeah, I want to see better from both of these guys moving forward, and hopefully we will. But we can keep it pushing, man, to Raul Rosas Jr., taking on Tuna Cam Terrence Mitchell. I apologize. I don't believe that's his official nickname, but he Dude, this was a layup. This was a get-right fight. This was a feeding. This was a can crushing. Early in the week, the scumbag in me wanted to do a little sprinkle on Mitchell because it was like plus 630 or some shit like that. And we had just saw Rosas kind of take his first L. He's so young. He's never experienced that before, but glad I didn't do that. Raul Rosas is still only 18 years old, multiple fights into his UFC career, which is very wild to consider. Obviously taking place in the bantamweight division, Rosas minus 750 favorite, Mitchell plus 525. This fight was wild. It was entertaining. It was kind of a slugfest, kind of a brawl. Okay, your face. Were you not entertained, sir?
It felt like it just felt like such a feeding. Like it just was. Terrence Mitchell, not UFC caliber at all.
No,
very clear.
This fight
within 10
this fight
seconds.
Had, like as we say, like by the dumpster at Buffalo Wild Wings vibes. Like there was just like very like low level, even for both ends, because Raul Rosas has high level grappling, but low level striking. Mitchell has pretty much low level everything, and they were just literally winging bombs. Like it looked like a street fight. It looked like somebody was gonna pop out and say World Star. Like didn't really have like.
Call me a hater, right. But I am not a Raul Rosas Jr. fan. I think he gets fed cans.
Are you saying fan or believer? Like you don't enjoy anything about him, or like because I'm kind of in on the story. I'm kind of in on like the youth, and this is interesting. He's pretty goddamn good on the mic. So that's why I would say I'm a fan, but not a believer. Like, do I think he's the future of the sport or the future of the division, or gonna do something we've never seen, or the future youngest champ? Or, I don't believe in any of that. But do I get do my ears perk up when I see him on a card? And am I interested for that post-fight interview? And am I kind of along for this ride to see what happens in this kind of experiment? Sure. But am I like a believer? That's where I would draw the line. But it sounds like you don't even necessarily enjoy any of the other stuff either.
All right. Just hear me out. In September 2020, right? 2022. That's when he made his UFC Dana White Contender Series debut. Unanimous decision, 3-round win. That's not usually getting you a contract. He's 17 years old, so Dana's like, oh shit, he's 17. This kid's gonna be good. I'll sign him. What do we talk about all the time? This is not the right organization to sign to get better in. You need to already be that guy. So, fast forward, first fight, December 2022, right? 3 months later, Jay Perrin, not UFC caliber, does not belong in the UFC. We all agree about that. Submits him. Cool, great, whatever. Then takes 4 more months. April of this year, unanimous decision loss, Christian Rodriguez. Christian Rodriguez, not a world beater. Pretty good, solid.
He's pretty good. Not a can.
Oh, not top 20 in bantamweight, in my opinion.
No, but who is?
20 guys. And then and then he fast forward. Sorry, I had it easy, And then he fast forward 5 more months. And you give him another get-right fight. How many cans we got to feed you before we can actually give you a top 25 guy if you are the future? And I'm just saying, I blame Dana. You signed him too early. You asked for too much of him. I can't stand his voice, so I got nothing to be sold on about him.
See, it's weird because I don't necessarily disagree with anything you said. I guess he's like kind of the exception, not the rule. Like I don't think it's a good business practice to do this like all the time. But it's kind of like a interesting little something. Like I don't know.
This guy's bantamweight Sage Northcutt.
Maybe, but that's what. See, I'm along for the ride. Like. But also like, what if he's like ends up being like a Blanchfield? Like by the time he's 23 in 5 years, bro, he'll be like Blanchfield's age. Like. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's still that, like, what if?
The miles are going to start to add up at a point, though, too. Like, that's the thing, is Blanchfield showed up at the right time.
I mean, they did it for Holloway.
And Blanchfield, no offense to her, way weaker division. Like, for this kid to be in bantamweight, that's really fucking tough.
That's what's tough. No, I don't disagree with that sentiment. I don't disagree. Like, this Raul Rosas experiment, they should have done it at, like, 205 or heavyweight.
That's my whole point, is, like, you can do that in bigger guy, weights.
But like an 18-year-old. I wanted to clarify before I lose all credibility. But But yeah, man, let's dive into this fight. I mean, it's a first round finish. What, it lasts 54 seconds. But like I said, I mean, see, this is where I've said nice things about Rosas. This is going to be my kind of like where I kind of like, hop off the bandwagon a little bit is everybody's going to try to take this and be like, oh, he's a grappler. He got a knockout on the feet. So therefore that proves that he could strike.
No.
Where that's whenever I'll push back. Like,
Yeah.
if anything, this proved that he like couldn't really strike. And that like this striking, like I said, but this looked like a fight you'd see on like at a college bar or at a Buffalo Wild Wings.
This is stereotype. This is stereotype. Guy tells you like, oh, bro, you don't want to see me when I get mad. When I get mad, I'm fucking different. And it's like, well, I just know you can't fight. When you say that, like I just know.
They were just winging wild hooks, like almost damn near closing their eyes and windmilling. Like, yeah, it looked like something you see on like an 8th grade playground. I mean, Raul Rosas won. He got the better of it, but he didn't show me anything that like showed me he got better at striking. Like, it's kind of like you'll hear kind of people talk about you got to separate the result from the performance, and this was A+ result with like a
C minus,
C minus
yeah,
level performance. Like he did show he has a little bit of natural power, but like who doesn't when you're literally swinging from that hip?
That's what I was gonna say. Like to load a shot up from like
1,000.
here and bring it through is like you better knock him out if you land that.
Yeah, against the guy your same weight class for sure. Like almost any human on earth, you give them just like a
full body weight.
Punch.
Yeah,
like you're good. Yeah, because you can't say it was some well-timed shot or some accurate shot or some set-up shot. Like, it was a barn burner, kind of a lucky shot. It doesn't look like a lucky shot because of the minus 750, right? It looks like this was a can crushing. Little like I don't know, like, where do you separate fluke whenever you knock out a minus 750? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, but I think you get my point. Like,
that's what I'm saying. For me, I'm like, okay, well, he fought. That's like as much as I can say.
He cashed a check.
Well, he got 50K, which getting very sick of every fighter that gets a finish calling for 50K. That's getting really old. I get it.
Once again, though, like, he's 18. Like, he's never even actually like worked a job. Like, he's literally starting from scratch. Like I'd be asking for 50K too.
Well, he got a 50K in his first fight with the submission in December. That was only 9 months ago. Let's learn how to keep our money straight here. We're only 18. Can't be giving you all the world yet.
Sure, man. But he gets the win. I agree with you, though. Like, did we learn anything, or did we, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, did we learn anything? Probably not. Did he, quote unquote, fill any holes? Like, maybe he did, but we didn't see it. Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly down to keep it pushing. Like
I think there's,
you're right.
I think there's two ways you can go, right? For the football fan of me to want to connect it, like for when OU beat Arkansas State 73-0, and I was like, OU's back. Okay, I'm a huge OU fan, so that performance against a massive underdog, I shouldn't be that juiced, right? And obviously, this last week they look great, so I have that vibe again. But then you go to week 2 against SMU, and they don't look so great. And so it's almost like I need to be realistic with the competition, and that's what I'm trying to do here with Raul Rosas is, hey, man, when he fights someone that's legit, he's going to struggle. Same with OU football. Like, when they play Texas, it's going to be a struggle for as good as I want to act like they are.
No, I feel it. I think they do got to bring him along slow. Like, in this specific case.
But so hard to do that in the UFC. That's like my one problem in bantamweight. I guess in bantamweight, it's a deep, deep, deep division where you're not risking getting cut by losing 1 or 2.
And they can use him to kind of clean out the lower end a little bit. Like,
and he's long shelf life, very indebted to the UFC because they gave him his first contract, blah, blah, blah.
And he really is, like, good on the mic, bro. Like, I
just hate his voice.
Yeah, but, like, who cares? Like, I don't know. Like, you can't, like, you got the voice he got. Like, I don't know. He's not a fucking talk radio guy.
Well, I can't listen to Duncan Trussell on podcasts or his TV show for the same reason, so it matters a little bit.
Fair enough. Man, we'll keep it pushing, man, to, like, maybe this might be the Mexican prospect we should be giving the actual shine to, bro. Daniel Zellhuber.
Bruh.
Like,
this is the one where they brought on Brandon Moreno to help call the fight with them.
Yeah.
And what he was saying about Zellhuber was crazy when he was like, oh, no, his takedown defense, like, he's not getting taken down. That was so fucking true.
like Zellhuber may be who they wanted Bahamondes to be.
Yes,
You know
like
what
his
I'm saying?
takedown defense is great, and his striking is what he's actually good at. Like he has
Like
the right combination of very good on the feet, very good defensive grappling. You don't have to be the offensive grappler; you just need to be defensive.
and remember what we were saying on the last Bahamondes fight? Like we were talking about, he just doesn't seem to have that like killer instinct, that dog in him. Like Zellhuber does. Um,
Does absolutely.
So we got 24-year-old Daniel Zellhuber, minus 305 favorite, taking on Christos Giagos, plus 245, lightweight division. And this was an interesting matchup, interesting money line, too, because, like, you see minus 305, and you're like, oh, is this another can crushing? And, like, Christos Giagos isn't, like, top end, obviously, but you can't say he's a can. Like, he's a good test for this level of fighter. Like, this
Yeah,
wasn't a feeding.
I'd say solid UFC lightweight. Like a guy that I think has a place in the UFC is better
Yeah.
than a lot of lightweights in the world. So it's
Like
kind of one of those
if
like
Christos Giagos went to LFA or something, he'd clean shop. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right, and I would yeah, oh for sure. And this is also one of those
yeah.
things where I'd say like you got to beat Yagos to be able to say you're on the path to getting a ranked opponent. Like he's a guy you
Oh
have to be able
yeah.
to get past to be able to say like I want a guy that's just outside the top 15, if that makes sense. Like he's a few steps
Oh,
back
it makes
of a
perfect
ranked
sense.
guy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree for sure. Like a somewhat legitimate test for a guy at Zellhuber's level of his career. Like what, 3 fights into his UFC career. Um, I mean, that being said, we said a lot of nice things about Zellhuber, man. I thought Christos Giagos looked great in round one, man. He kind of wobbled Zellhuber with the punch, big right hand, I believe. He was getting off on the leg kicks. He seemed to he was closing that distance, like almost textbook. Um, and definitely seemed to have like the power advantage. Now, I think you could argue maybe Zellhuber was trying to make some reads in round one, whatever, maybe take him a second to like wake up, whatever kind of excuse you want to make. But obviously came out much better in round two. But I think Giagos won round one. I think it's fair to say.
100%. I scored it for him 10-9. Zellhuber, it's a good thing he has a really strong chin because he does start
Yeah.
slow.
Yeah, started slow, and like I said, Giagos was like really like exploding to cover the distance. Almost, Giagos was kind of fighting like a heavyweight, like fighting like a shorter heavyweight. You know what I mean? Just like exploding in and ducking under and landing some overhands. Like, but it was working. It was working. Like he's definitely Giagos is like a good athlete for sure, which allows him to like do like what I was just talking about. Yeah, I mean, we both gave Giagos round one, but like I said, I don't know if it was a read that he made or if he just took a second to wake up. But I mean, Zellhuber came out round two looking like the minus 305 guy, looking like I
Connecting
said,
his
I don't know if it was a
hands.
read. Yeah, I don't know if it was a read he made or just like a wake up or nerves. I don't know exactly. I can't put my finger on like the cause, but the result was a much better round two.
Absolutely, so much so that cracked him with that big right hand, maybe just over 3 minutes through the round, and then it caused Yagos to essentially kind of get wobbled, freak out, and push in for the takedown to escape the damage he was about to take on the feet, and that led to him getting anaconda choked. We'll talk about it
Yeah,
later on because there's a crazy no contest where we see an attempted anaconda choke, and this is what a real one looks like. And I loved it for Dominic Cruz because he was like so vindicated when he was like, oh no, this one's tight, this one's deep, and fucking Yagos taps almost immediately once
no,
they
for
hit their mat.
sure.
And like
Yeah, I was like,
in the no contest, they sat there for 20 seconds and the guy never tapped. So for Dominic Cruz's point, he was like, oh no, when it's locked in, like you're out quick or you're not. Like it's not a one where I'm just gonna take here and hold you for a minute and you're gonna go out. It's like a 6 seconds or not.
yeah, that's interesting to know for like future anaconda attempts that we witness. Now, yeah, it was classic Brennan Fitzgerald club and sub. Like he hit him with a stiff shot, forced a really terrible takedown attempt from Giagos that had no chance, and it was from way too far out because he had just got drilled. And Zellhuber, to his credit, to have the presence of mind to like, he almost defended the takedown with the
Yeah.
anaconda.
Yeah,
Like he
like put
literally
like caught the shoulder
and like
and it was like, oh, and just snapped it together and rolled and it was like, oh.
yeah, rolled through the anaconda. It was beautiful because I mean, tall, lanky guy. We kind of view Zellhuber as more of a striker to know that he has that in his bag. You know, as at 24 years old. against the guy on the level of Christos Giagos, like pretty much everything I just said about Rosas, I'm going to say it's kind of like the exact opposite about Zell Huber. Like, I kind of am a believer. Like, I kind of do believe the skill set translates to higher levels. He has both the physical, like, build and attributes combined with obviously the fight IQ and and the just kind of killer instinct and like an ability to finish a fight. He's got a hell of a chin on him. We got to figure out the slow start or whatever that was. But really, that's the only negative thing I have to say. But like, aside from that, it's dauber up on Zell Huber, I'd say.
I would absolutely agree with you, man. I like Zell Huber moving forward. I think now you give him someone just outside top 15, talking like a top 20 kind of a guy. If he wins that, like a Drew Dober, Zell Huber, fun fight.
Oh, so fun.
If he wins something like
I'm
that.
glad you brought up Drew Dober the other day. Drew Dober's mom liked my Instagram comment. It was pretty hilarious.
Shout out Drew Dober's mom. I wonder if her chin is where he got his.
It literally looks like Drew Dober. I was like, is this his mom? And then I looked at our post, and and he has a sister that looks just like him too. The whole family has the crimson chins. And Drew Dober was liking all the posts and stuff. It was definitely his actual mom. But because Drew Dober just announced the fight on Instagram, and I'm not even trying to do the Chael Sonnen thing where you try to not remember somebody's name as a shot. I legitimately couldn't tell you who this guy is. And I thought it was a weird matchmaking because Drew Dober has a name. We all know who he is, and we all look forward to watching him fight. So for the UFC to matchmake him with just some literally random guy, some random, I want to say it's a Brazilian guy, nobody we've ever heard of, and unranked, just literally random generated fighter, and and I just left a comment I honestly hate how they're matchmaking Drew Dober you deserve bigger fights than this, and he does. I'm not saying he deserves title shots, but bigger fights than random contender series guys. Yeah, I think he's earned that. And and his mom agreed with me. So apparently his own family he deserves I agree. Drew Dober should be fighting they said, even if it's a Zell Huber. I'm not saying they got to give him top 5, but
no, Dober Pim.
We've heard
but
of
Dober Patty is a sellable.
Dober Patty, Dober Bahamondes, Dober, you know what I'm saying? Some unranked lightweights that were actually exist. There's plenty of them out there. Yeah. So yeah. But anyway, sorry, you brought up Drew Dober. Shout out Mama Dober. The first fight on the main card, we'll get to it. We had Kyle Nelson plus 200 taking on Fernando Padilla minus 245, who looks like a goddamn bad guy in a Disney movie.
Bruh.
He's one of the weirdest, just
the way he fights too. He just mobs forward, high guard, shelled shoulders. He looks like a bad guy.
He does this weird cartoonish thing with his eyebrows. Interesting looking cat, and honestly a fun fighter to watch. I'm purely just clowning around here. I said you're bored. You have the voice you got the face you got too. Not his fault, but it's just an interesting look. That's why he literally stands out in my mind. Because I read Fernando Padilla on paper, does nothing to my brain. I see this guy's face, and I'm like, oh, it's this motherfucker.
You're oh, Disney villain, right.
Yeah, Disney villain.
Now, coming in, I liked Fernando Padilla in this. After watching round 1, he needs to learn how to check a leg kick, dog. Holy shit.
He does, because he's 6'1" in the featherweight division, and Vegas had him as a big favorite. Kyle Nelson's the classic back end of featherweight, definitely UFC caliber, definitely not top 12 caliber. For sure in that middle range, the definition of mid, journeyman, you know what I'm saying? And then so this is really kind of a gatekeeper kind of test here. If Padilla passes this with flying colors, he's looking at either a ranked guy or a guy we've heard of. One of those two things. So this was kind of I don't want to say make or break, because Padilla, I believe, is still pretty young as well. But it was a real test for him. And obviously on the main card. Now, that being said, I thought rounds 1 and 3 were super close, and I kind of struggled to judge them. granted, I ended up, with the same winner as the judges, so the right man won. But I thought rounds 1 and 3 were like very, very close.
I thought all 3 rounds were pretty close, to be quite honest with you, and I even gave
Okay.
round one to Padilla.
See, I ended up with 30-27 Nelson, but like struggled to arrive at that conclusion. Like, I mean, because you're right. Round one, Padilla, he had a significant strike number advantage by like a pretty wide margin. The visible damage, it was weird because he got a lot of like superficial aesthetic damage on the face of Nelson in one, but never really like wobbled him or stunned him or knocked him down or like it was weird. He was obviously taking damage, but he never got hurt. Kind of
Yeah,
like a weird
well, credit to Nelson. Every time he'd get cracked, he would back out, reset.
For sure, definitely agree with that. And then I ended up leaving to Nelson. Like those calf kicks and body kicks were like very impactful, and there's like so many of them. And then there was that one like little counter shot where he did kind of wobble Padilla, which Padilla was never able to do to him. But I mean, I just made an argument for both guys. However you scored round one, you're not wrong. Like it's just kind of beauty's in the eye of the beholder on that one.
So I thought that Nelson, like, you could argue he won the overall damage battle because of the calf kicks, just because Padilla was just eating him, right? But as far as
the
like
calf was like swelling up, like it was impacting.
sure, but as far as like impact, they're not really impactful in round one. They're going to be impactful in round 2 and 3 when you keep doing it. Because I think in the first
landing so clean and hard though, like
yeah, but what I'm saying is like in round 3 when he would land him, like Padilla like stopped moving forward, would like switch a leg back, like he literally would change the way he was fighting. In round 1, how much impact did it have that he just marched through him? You know what I mean?
I get your point. The whole water in the basement, money
Yeah,
in the bank.
yeah. It's like a flood, exactly. Like, all right, so I know it's up to the fucking door at the basement with the leg kicks after round 1. Like, I even have it in my notes that if he doesn't figure it out, it's gonna lose him the fight, which I think it does. I give round 2 and 3 to Nelson, essentially on the head kicks, leg kicks, and body work that he's able to do in the rest of the fight.
No, all fair point. Like Nelson's face was very beat up after round one. Like I said, giving Padilla round one is totally like in bounds. Like makes sense to me, like for sure. Yeah, round two I thought was Nelson's best round of the fight. I actually don't have the word close in my notes. Like I very clearly gave round two to Nelson. The damage, the power, like when he landed 2 head kicks, like they weren't really blocked, like skim blocked.
They landed pretty hard. I was surprised Padilla ate him as well as he did.
Yeah, Padilla's chin wild,
Yeah.
wild chin. And so and then there were more calf kicks. I mean, yeah, I thought Nelson was won round 2 for sure. Now round 3, was close. Because it was another round 3 is very similar to round 1 to me. Like, Padilla was landing punches to the face. Nelson was landing kicks to the calf and body, as you alluded to earlier, because of the money in the bank earlier in the fight. Like the calf kicks were more visibly noticeable and impactful and damaging in round 3. But like looked very similar to round 1.
100% agree.
Yeah.
And one judge does score this 30-27 like you, which to your credit and that judge's point, and like the way we've painted the picture of the fight, Nelson doesn't change a whole lot, 1, 2, or 3. It's pretty much Padilla and the visible damage stacking up against him and like his physical movements being limited. So it's almost like a visual change in after round 1 that leads you to see like Nelson's success. But a lot of that was built in round 1.
Well, and also, bro, like, man, it's similar to what I said about JDM earlier. Like, Padilla is like damn near not even a mixed martial artist. He's like a boxer. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, quite literally, Padilla
right
is a
hands.
boxer.
So it's like it's just when you're scoring a mixed martial arts fight, like, yeah, your jab was crispy, bro, and you landed a couple counter lefts, but like. You're getting leg kicked and body kicked and head kicked. And it's not like Nelson wasn't landing punches either. It's just hard to, like, give you the scorecard in a mixed martial arts fight whenever you didn't shoot a takedown. You didn't really have any clinch strikes. I don't think any knees or elbows really. Like, it was just, you probably beat Nelson in a boxing match, but that's not the sport we were watching, Like
100%. That's 100% the truth.
Which is how I feel about JDM moving forward. Like JDM might need to go box Jake Paul or something. Like I don't know if MMA is for him. Like real talk. Like I don't think I've seen him like do anything other than box. Like, I don't know. Like,
we see that with so many of those Oceanic guys, though. Like, they don't want to wrestle. And honestly, it sucks, too, because if you think about Volk, the one of them that can wrestle like that, he's the best. Like, their striking is so high level over there that if they would just learn how to grapple, like, the Oceanic region would be so good at mixed martial arts. But for some reason, grappling not a stress there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like even down to like the youth level. Like, there's no such thing as like middle school wrestling in Australia. Like, that's like just like a cultural thing. Just like there's no baseball in fucking Scotland, or you know what I'm saying? Like,
It's like a club sport only. It's not like done as a national program.
No, for sure, man. And that wraps up the main card. Just one kind of like last little take that like I didn't really get to yet on the pod, but we talked about it a little bit before we went live. I just wanted to touch on it. I guess I'll ask you first, and I'll give my take. Like, how did you feel about a title fight being on a non-pay-per-view card? Just broad stroke. Like, do you think that's something they should do more of, less of, one-off? What's your takeaway from that?
I like it, but I actually... So I thought about it a lot, and I think what sucks the most about it is as a champion, you get pay-per-view points, so you get bonus money. So if you don't get to be on a pay-per-view, you don't get your full check. So I kind of hated it for Grasso.
I considered that as well. First off, there's a 0% chance that would have been a main event anyway. So they're getting a much smaller pay-per-view points than if they're a main event.
Absolutely.
I also assume there's some kind of flat rate bonus. I just assume. I don't have any evidence of that, but I would assume they're not just making their show and win. I imagine there was some kind of bonus. What that is and how big it was.
Also, John McDessie got paid $60K to lose. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, so it's like
I didn't realize names like that were getting $60K. Is my point. So like Grasso,
it's longevity.
But I'm just saying as a champion, and like Grasso's been there a good amount of time now. So like, I bet she got paid like a good flat rate always to fight. So I would imagine, to your point, like, what do you think? Maybe they double it, so she goes from 150 to 300.
That's what I'm saying, and I guarantee you, she made more than like any WNBA player's higher salary. You know what I mean? So I guess, especially if you're like putting it on the women level of women's sports, like I doubt there's many women out there making better paydays than Alexa Grasso, like in all of women's sport, like legitimately.
And I don't know if they gave her a percentage of merch that has her like name on it or whatever, but obviously at Noche UFC, she was going to sell the most merch.
That's what I'm saying. There's no way they didn't give her anything extra. Like, I think she's doing just fine. And like I said, she wouldn't have headlined a pay-per-view anyway. So like, what we're talking about, like not like hypothetical, non-existent pay-per-view points that wouldn't have even been a thing.
So let me ask you this for Sean O'Malley. Like, would you put Sean O'Malley ever on a fight night?
Oh, no. But and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's guys that are pay-per-view draws. I have like a big overarching point I'm getting to. I think this is going to get us more to like a more of like a meritocracy, because before, so much of getting the title shot was being able to draw, and because they had to. It's the whole business model.
I see. Now you can. So I think now you can say like, if it's not a draw, like, all right, fine, fuck it, doesn't matter if it's a draw. Well, also they went public with TKO, the merger acquisition that they did with WWE last week. So a title fight as a public event is going to make a lot more sense the same week that they went public.
Yeah, like I don't think it's like the new precedent, but I also don't think it's a one-off. Like I think any title fight, for example, let me ask you this:
what if it was on ABC though? I think it should be on like ABC. That's what I'm saying.
That's an option, but yeah, like all the title fights that like they couldn't make because they wouldn't sell, like they were afraid to make like Royval Moreno and shit like that because you can't sell a pay-per-view off of it. Fights like that, or like if there's ever some like snoozy like Ankalaev, whoever the fuck title fight, like that's not gonna sell, you do this with it.
Like Zombie Volk.
I think Zombie Volk, nobody was super stoked to pay $80 for that. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. No, Volk's kind of a tough one because he is a draw. So like,
but I'm just saying, like in that
boxing style.
Yeah, it was still tough though.
Or like all the other Shevchenko title fights that were co-main events. Like, would you rather be a co-main? Like, or like, you know what I mean? Like, I think one time there was even a featured match. There was like a card with 3 title fights, and that was like the lowest one. So like, would you rather have that, or you know?
I would rather have that.
It wasn't in the Apex.
I would rather have that because like the fight week build up, like you get a lot more. You get like a full presser, and you're like the third chair, and everyone's watching it for the main event, so you still get to be there. Like I don't know, I just think there's a lot more publicity to be gained, even in the third spot as a title fight on a pay per view.
I might push back. But I think it's an interesting tool to have. And like I said, and maybe I'm like being too hopeful here. I am hopeful that there's a scenario where it promotes more of a meritocracy, and like you don't have to be able to quote unquote sell to get a title fight.
But see,
like if there's ever like a Shavkat Sean Brady title fight, or
okay,
like, you know what I'm saying?
but we're gonna need like Noche Kazakhstan for that. Like that's I think another part that we're slightly ignoring in all of this is like, yeah, they did do this as a free title fight. It's also Grasso on Mexican Independence Day card, so they kind of owed the Mexican fans like, hey, we need to like. And what were their options? She's the only belt holder they have left.
I feel like you can always like find a reason to like you can reverse engineer that reason, like 4th of July for an American fighter, or fucking. Well, you can always find some kind of spin to put on that.
But it's like a marketing thing, right? And like marketing to Mexico makes sense. Marketing to like Poland, who the fuck cares? Like there's not enough people there to buy enough merch. Like there's a lot of Latino people, Mexico and United States, right, that are going to buy and have like consumer purchasing power. That's what this marketing. So you can do that with
matchmaking then. So like say you have like an Ankalaev or somebody. Then you put it in the B-side's hometown and sell out a stadium that way. Like, you can. That's a fixable. Like,
I see where you're going, but like,
you can figure that out.
It just seems like you're doing so much to keep them off a pay-per-view at that point.
And I just think that there's certain guys, like the Brandon Royvals of the world. I think this helps those type of fighters that like,
but like we
probably deserve a title shot.
We would have said this about Sean Strickland probably a year ago. Before he had that spat with Izzy at the press conference, like, no one would have said that he was a draw of any sort. Now, as it stands to be today, he's maybe one of the biggest draws in the UFC.
I think we both made some good points. I don't think that's necessarily like an argument either one of us.
Oh, no.
Something I wanted to like spend a couple minutes on the pod wrapping up the main card segment. Just touch on that subject because it was an anomaly. We don't get that often.
What do you think their conversations like are at UFC headquarters? I mean, it's very similar to what we just went through. Like how and why can they do it? When can they do it? What about it makes it feasible? Because if you have a guy like John Jones, obviously bad example because he's the biggest draw heavyweight. You're never going to do that. But my point is he gets paid so much, you need the pay-per-view points to pay him because you don't want to pay him that flat rate because if it is a bad sell, you'd be selling yourself short as the UFC company.
Here's the perfect example. There's a scenario where sometime in the year 2024, we have a Curtis Blades, Sergey Pavlovich.
Oh, perfect example.
Perfect example. You can't sell that as a pay-per-view. And if you do, it's going to be like cheap as fuck caveman logic. We have strong, scary heavyweights. We're going to put them on a poster showing their muscles. And
maybe by then Ukraine's lost the war and they go to Russia and do it there. I mean, what? Maybe the war's over,
Jesus Christ. Fucking Kremlin over here.
The Kremlin gremlin.
But no, exactly. If there's a war like Blades and Pavlovich isn't selling a pay-per-view, sorry. Moreno, or maybe Moreno will go at this point. Moreno's a big enough star, but like somewhere where there's
But see, I'd push back on the Pavlovich thing too because I think Pavlovich is one big name highlight victory away from being a name.
But that's best case scenario. There's also a world where he gets a win. I'm just saying, like these are all. This is an arsenal. It's like a contingency, right? Or like if there's a world where there's like a Royval Albazi title fight.
Oh fuck!
Like, you know what I'm saying though, or like even at this point, like Santos Fioro, the hardcores would be all in, but that's not a like people were like. Bars aren't paying $5,000 to show that at their bar. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a tool in the arsenal that the UFC can pull out. That I say, in my hopes, best case scenario. I'm not saying it will happen. What I'm saying, I hope comes out of this is it's more of a meritocracy bracket style. We put the two best fighters in there, and it doesn't always have to be a WWE promotion sideshow.
Okay.
like in the Chael Sonnen days. You know what I'm saying? In order for the title fight to happen.
I have one final question to wrap it up on, just like a juxtaposition. Would you rather this, where we get title fights on fight nights, or would you rather have cards so stacked through like the UFC London the last time they went with like Aspinall, Patty, that one where it was like name value way more stars than this, but no belt. I actually appreciated that more. I liked it more.
I'll take this. All
right.
I think we drawn our lines in the sand. But yeah, that wraps up the main card. Subscribe if you haven't already. We do every single fight on every single card. This is the show you can come have a little fun. Every MMA show is so goddamn serious and so self-righteous. We just like to have a little fun talking about the fights with our boys, like I'm sure you do too at home. So yeah, man, we'll be right back to talk about these prelims. And yeah, check out our other videos and give us a subscribe. We'll be right